Hey guys, so this week I want to talk to you young entrepreneurs out there. You know, those of you who are just starting out, maybe you're in your 20s, 30s, just starting your first business. Because I see you guys make a lot of the same mistakes, and so I thought I'll talk a little bit about what I see you doing wrong and hope that it will help you. Even though, you know, my feeling is that not everybody should be an entrepreneur, but if you chose that way, I think this will help you. So the first thing that I see you guys do wrong is that when you make your business plan, when you make all the calculations whether this business will work, you tend to always use the best case scenario. You go, when you make the calculations, you think of an ideal world. And when I look at those calculations and I start asking you if you change a couple of numbers, if your sales are a little bit under, if your costs are a little bit over, your entire business plan breaks down. Now, I don't blame you because in the past 10 years, we had an economic boom, basically. When the crisis in 2008 happened, depending how old you are now, but you're probably 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. So you don't really know what it's like to do business in a hard environment, in a low, like in an economic downturn, in a difficult situation. But just so you know, there's a saying that says that hard times make strong men make good times make weak men, and weak men make hard times. So because you haven't gone through this difficult time, you don't have the discipline that's often required to go through the bad turns. So when you analyze your business, try to play a game where you do a what if. A what if there's an economic downturn? What if our sales are twice less than we predict? What if somebody from the team quits? What if our costs are higher? If you do that, you will make your business a lot more bulletproof, a lot more recession ready than it probably is today. It's a very, very important thing. Do not make a business plan as if everything in the world is perfect, because it will never be, okay? The second thing that you guys are doing wrong is that I see a lot of you coming to me and asking me, is this business gonna work? Is my product nice? What could you recommend that we should do? When I ask you, tell me about your business, I start hearing things like, well, look, this is our product. This is where we're gonna make it. This is how it looks like. This is the little engraving we're gonna have on the packaging. This is how we're gonna ship it. This is the box we're gonna use, and so on, and so on, and so on. And when I ask you real business questions like, what are your margins? How are you gonna manage cash flow, inventories? Typical kind of business questions. How are you going to sell this to people? How are you going to reach the people? What's your customer acquisition cost? You have none of these answers. So you sort of figure out all the non-essentials that go into making a product, and I get that. It's like the most exciting part of figuring out the product, but you need to figure out the business before you figure out the product. The best entrepreneurs that I know have been people that started selling, and then turned it into a business. Most people that weren't successful are the people that started the business and then try to figure out how to sell those things. So remember, sales is king. If you can sell something, you'll always be able to make a business out of it. Figure out the essentials first. The third thing that a lot of you do is that you treat it more as a hobby than as a business, which means when you start a business, you don't really form a company. You think, you know what, I'm gonna accept cash payments so I don't have to pay the taxes, I don't have to declare taxes. You don't do any shareholders agreements if you have partners. You basically run it as a kind of hobby that if it works, it works, if it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's the wrong approach. If you really wanna be serious about entrepreneurship, you wanna be serious about a business, you have to approach it as a business from day one. Meaning, form a company, accept payments, cash, card, transfers, declare your revenues, pay your taxes, get into the habit of doing things right from the beginning. That way, if your business suddenly starts working well, you will already have all the right habits formed, how to run a proper business, not just a starting business, but a real business. As you start to grow, it will be in your blood. You won't have to study it all over again and change your ways. The fourth thing is that I see you guys being often very, very naive and romantic. And business is not romantic. Now, what do I mean by that? When you start a business, you're like, okay, so I have 500 followers on Facebook. I have a bunch of friends. My parents have a bunch of friends. I know if I create this product, if I create this service, all of these people are suddenly gonna want to use my business, want to buy my product, want to come and use our services. It's not the way it works. To be honest with you, none of them give a shit about your business. So if you make your calculations, don't assume that just because you're a nice guy and they know your parents, they're gonna come and actually pitching money and buy whatever you're selling. Plus, a lot of the people that are telling you today, oh, it's such a great idea, or it's such a great product, a lot of them are just saying it to sort of be nice, to tell you that, it's awesome that instead of being out smoking somewhere, you're actually working in a business. But it doesn't mean that they're real customers. The only real customers you have are people that put their money where their mouth is. So don't be too naive and too romantic about this whole thing. Business is brutal. You need to learn your lessons, and you need to treat it as a business than some sort of a fairy tale romantic story. And the fifth thing that I want to talk to you about is don't let noise push you away from the clarity that you had when you started the business. So you had a great idea. You followed through, you created the business, and then suddenly, you're selling and you get to read reviews. Some of them are positive, but some will be negative. So you read negative reviews, you're not selling as much as you wanted. People are telling you that it's not gonna work. Your parents are saying, well, maybe you should be going to school more than dealing with your business. All of these things get to your head, and you start losing the clarity, that focus that you had on actually, starting the business, generating the sales, and you start dealing with all this noise, which hurts you, which doesn't allow you to grow the business, and which does absolutely no good. So don't drown in the noise, avoid the noise, stick to the idea that you had, the clarity that you had, because you've gotten somehow you've gotten this far without everybody. So trust me, you can go a lot further without listening to all this noise that pollute your ideas. I hope it was helpful. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear, sort of your interpretation of what I said, or maybe some more questions that you have about entrepreneurship. We would love to answer them. Sign up, hit the bell, and watch out for more content next week. Thanks for watching.